What's up, everybody? This is Daniel. I'm back for month 8 in my series Startup Ortho Practice. We're moving from New York back to Canada, so not a lot happened in the first week. I had to pack up all my stuff. I sold some stuff, I threw out some stuff, and back to the motherland. So we're just gonna skip week 1, nothing happened. Let's get going in week 2. Some fantastic news to start off. Month 8, week 2, I learned that the wall that was supposed to kind of outline my office space, it was actually put in the wrong spot. And I don't want to blame anybody, but it wasn't my fault and it wasn't my team's fault. Nevertheless, the wall was in the wrong spot and it kind of doesn't look like a huge deal from the outside, but we knew the floor plan and what we wanted to do with the reception area there, and it totally messed up where the door was going to be, where the reception was going to be. Anyway, the details don't matter, but I think the lesson here is that no matter how careful you are, there are lots of people involved and things happen, and you want to be sure that your lease and any contracts you sign, you are covered for this type of thing. And then the hard lesson I learned is that even when you are covered, you have to decide, is it worth pursuing, knowing there's going to be delays and legal fees and all that type of stuff. So it was kind of like a wake-up call, a welcome to the real world where things happen and you just have to kind of let it go and move on. So that was a nice start to month 8. Anyway, some other good stuff did happen in this week. I'm back in Canada, which means the air is fresher and there is cheap Tim Hortons coffee everywhere. So that was a big morale boost there. I had an in-person meeting with my accountant and he went over all of the projections that his team had sorted out based on the productivity I thought I would have and some of the expenses. We talked about what the expenses and the profits might look like year to year and what my break-even point is. And it was great to get this meeting crossed off the list because the banker obviously is very interested in these projections. So I was able to pass that along to the banker for review. And then later that week, I actually had an in-person meeting with the banker. So it was nice to see these people face to face finally, rather than all the phone calls and Zoom calls I was doing back from New York. This was a pretty informal meeting. He just talked about generally what the process is for getting the loan. And then after the meeting, I made sure he had all of the documents he needed to start working on my file, getting things going. And then on Friday of this week, I had a meeting with my dental sales rep to confirm some of the stuff that we saw down in Nashville, some of the equipment selection, the colors that I wanted to use, and a lot of the sterilization specifics. So we went through the equipment list and I had to sign some forms for that. And then the other thing I did on the last day of this week, I signed up for another dental monitoring webinar. So just again, trying to learn more about that product, see if it's something I think will benefit my practice. In week 3 of July, I woke up and realized I hated my current logo, the one with the teeth outlining the name of the practice. And I had been seeing this person on Instagram who did these awesome reimagined logos for basketball teams or established companies, and I just thought his logos were very clean and unique and clever. So I actually reached out to this guy. He was very easy and fun to work with, and I let him know my situation, my current logo, and what I was hoping to change about it. So I started this process of revamping my logo. In the middle of this week, I had a site visit. So again, I'm not going to get into details, but everyone involved with that wall being in the wrong spot showed up in person. We confirmed that the wall was in the wrong spot, and unfortunately it needed to move because it was gonna mess up the whole plan for the reception area. And somehow I had to contribute to the costs associated with moving this wall. Again, it would have cost more and taken more time to kind of legally go at it and make someone else cover the whole expense. So whatever, there it was paid for, and the construction to move it over was happening. So that was an unexpected delay. I would say it set everything back at least a month because my general contractor couldn't really move forward. We couldn't finalize the reception design until we knew the space we were working with. So that's just another example of how the timelines you have, I think it's good to be optimistic, but understand that things you can't even imagine are probably going to pop up and push all your dates, your timelines back a little bit. And then at the end of this week, I spent some time really thinking about what I want my practice to be able to do in-house in terms of digital lab capabilities. So I spent a lot of time on the AAO website. Again, if you're a member with AAO, they have incredible resources on there talking about printers, scanners, fabricating aligners in-house. And I think that technology is really going to change over the next 5 years. I think, anyway, these are just my opinions, but I think it's going to become a big part of certain practices. And I want to be totally up to date on that stuff, all the new tech. And so the AAO, great resource. And then I also spoke with a lady from a dental supply company, and she has so much knowledge about this type of stuff, not only in orthodontics, but all of dentistry. So the printers that are being used, the scanners, the materials. So we had a really productive chat. And I'd say after looking at those two things, I had a much clearer sense of what I want to be able to do in my lab, what's realistic, how much it might cost, and even some of the brands or the products that I think I want to have in my lab space. So really positive and exciting way to end the week. Month 8, week 4, I got some logo suggestions back from that designer I mentioned, and he gave me, I think, 4 logos to choose from. I narrowed it down to 1, and then I got back to him with some suggestions and some feedback. So that was a back and forth process between us that was still ongoing to finalize the logo. The nice thing about being in my city here is that people seem to know each other, and my parents know some people. So I had a meeting with my dental sales rep and my interior designer, and they both know each other anyway. So the 3 of us had a really easygoing, productive meeting, and everyone was working well together, which is sort of a recurring theme I'm finding. So just any advice, if you can find people that sort of know each other or they've worked with each other before, that really seems to help the flow of things. But anyway, we were just talking about the colors that we had selected for the equipment, and then what that might mean for the colors of, the floor of the office, the walls, choosing certain tiles, things like that. So it was actually starting to really come together, and it was an exciting meeting, kind of like being in Nashville. It made everything feel a little bit more real for me. Another person I met with this week was a rep from a washer company. So you're gonna have to decide how you want your sterilization, if you want like autoclaves, washers, all that stuff. It's really boring. I didn't ever really think about it before now, even though I've been doing clinical dentistry for many years at this point. But now I actually have to make some decisions about that. And what I would say is talk to people who are in your field, ask what they're using, but also keep in mind the regulations of your province or your state, because Ontario is super strict with how things should be done. So you don't want to buy a piece of your sterilization center that isn't up to protocol, or something that people have a sense might be phased out, just because these, especially with COVID, things have become more and more strict. So I'm not going to get into sterilization, but just make sure you are up to code if you're going to be making some big purchases for your Steri Center. This week I also had to make a few more deposits. So just a word of advice, have some checks ready if you don't, because I didn't, and that was a bit of a problem a couple times. And then again, like I said before, if you can try to make sure you're keeping your banker as up to date as possible. You just don't want to run into that situation where like you need to make a down payment or a deposit to lock in a certain promo, but you don't have funds available for that. So I don't know how to deal with that better, because there's a lot of unknowns all at once. But just know that you're going to get hit with some big checks or money orders that you need to hand in, and it would be great if you have the funds already available, whether it's from your banker or you've got some personal funds that you can access for now and sort of reimburse yourself later on. Fun stuff, paying for things with money that you don't actually have. And then at the end of this week, me and ChatGPT, we tried to think of every single step that happens as a patient flows through the office. So for example, like seeing your website, making an appointment, coming into the office, filling out medical form, having your records taken, your informed consent, bonding, all that stuff. I was trying to think of every single step, and then all of the forms that might be needed at each of those steps. So like a retainer form, a welcome to the office form, your consent form. You just have to start to think about that and have those things ready. The AAO and I think the CAO, they have some sample forms that you can use. I think you can even use the exact form as well if you're a member. And then you can also get inspiration from some other dentists or specialists just from their websites for some ideas, things you might want to include that the AAO form is not including. The summary for month 8, I moved back to Canada. It's great to be able to see my site in person and also be available for some in-person meetings. I finalized the floor plan for the clinical portion of the office. I was working on a lot of interior design ideas. I got financial projections from the accountant, which I passed along to the banker. I made a lot of deposits with money I don't have. I'm reworking my logo, and I'm really trying to think about how I can make my office as modern as possible to make treatment more convenient and easier for my patients. So whether that's teledentistry or that's having digital capabilities in my office and in my lab, I feel like I'm starting my career now. So whatever's up and coming now or been around for a couple years, that's gonna be old news in 10 years. So you gotta be on top of these things. Just my take anyway. So yeah, it was a pretty fun month. Glad to be back home. If you're enjoying this series, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you back for month number 9. Thanks.